Welcome to The Firehouse, the show dedicated to the brave men and women who serve our community.
Welcome to The Firehouse on WRHU 88.7. I am your host, Chris Moses, and today, sitting with me in The Firehouse is none other than, let's say this right so everyone knows, Thomas Dudley Moran.
How are you, Chris? Good to be here, man.
Buddy? I'm glad that you are here. So
glad I could cross the border from Suffolk into Nassau to be on the show.
Come all the way over to Nassau. How was the drive in?
It was wonderful.
It was wonderful.
Wonderful this time of morning.
There you go, right? But I guess it's not that bad because the teachers are out. So normally, like if this was like during the school year, I think the traffic is probably way worse, right?
Yeah, we're just past the 4th of July weekend, so people are either coming back or going.
There you go. All right, so Thomas, if you can, and I'm going to call you Dudley this whole time. If
Do
that's
it
right
because people, fourth grade, that's been my nickname.
That's
and
your name. So Dudley, please just tell everybody a little bit about yourself. Tell them what department that you're in, what company, how long you've been in, what ranks you've held, and then you can even go in a little to your professional life.
Sure. So I'm in my 32nd year being a volunteer firefighter. I started in the junior program. When I was younger, then at the age of 18, I joined the Lindenhurst Fire Department. I was there for 7 years. Moved over to the North Lindenhurst Fire Department. There's 2 separate departments there. I joined Engine Heavy Rescue Co.1 there in April of 1999. Quickly went up through the ranks. Served on the company level, lieutenant, captain. Then went into the chief's office. I ran for chief unopposed, which was something that I guess maybe spoke for my character at the time because it only had happened once in our department.
Wow, look at that.
And second deputy chief, first deputy chief, and then I was chief of the department from 2009 to 2011. It continued, went back in. They went back in as captain for a year and actually been a little longer than a year because of somebody that was hurt. And couldn't fulfill the duties, so I got to be the captain again. So that was a different perspective.
I have to ask about that. From going to chief, right?
Yep.
And then coming out of chief and saying, I'm going to turn around and do this again and start at captain. How is that? Like, how's that dynamic change from going from chief, from the entire department, to now I'm just this company?
Well, for anybody that ever wanted to be a chief and either didn't make it or just deciding about it, captain is the best job in the fire department because when you're the captain, you're with your company. Most of the times, everybody in the company likes each other.
Most of the time.
You ride in the front seat every run. You know, nobody's bumping you out. You know, you're not like the junior second lieutenant. You go into fires. You're putting out fires. So
you kind of do what you want. You're the
captain. Captain's a good job, man. It really is. So
captain's a good job. That's a good one.
Did that. Then me and my wife got married, bought a house, moved out. She's from Farmingville. She grew up there. So I joined Farmingville in February of 2020. Went to life membership with North Lindenhurst. So I'm still a member there, just not going to calls.
Yep. If you can just do me, just for the listeners that may not understand what life means. Like, we understand what that means when you take life. So what does that mean when you take life at a fire department?
So each department has different criteria of what makes you a life member. And it usually goes by your time served. So usually if you do 20 years, 25 years, I think that's kind of the norm. After that time, you've paid your dues. You've done, what we expect you to do in the fire service, and you know more. You don't have to answer alarms anymore. They kind of cut back on what you're required to do. Okay. And it's a nice thing to get. You say, hey, I'm a life member. It's like, oh, thank you that you did such a great job and served your time.
Key is still on. For people that don't know, Key is still on for the Firehouse.
Yep.
Right? You get to kind of enjoy the amenities of the Firehouse, and you're not responding to calls or anything like that. But you put your time in, and that's the main thing.
Exactly.
You put your time in. So now this is what you're reaping from putting your time in.
Of course.
So, but people that don't know. So go ahead. You're a life member.
So I'm a life member. I joined the Farmingville Fire Department. I had some friends there. My wife is a member of the neighboring department, Holtzville. So I knew some people there. I joined, and one of the nice things, or a perk, I guess you would say, is because Suffolk County, as it's developed, out as you went out further east, it was less and less populated.
Okay.
So the fire departments, there are a lot of them in Suffolk County. If you come from another department, you say you held the rank of chief, they will honor that status in their department. So
like that.
when I joined Farmingville, my badge says ex-chief Farmingville Fire Department. I have to make what the other ex-chiefs from the home department have made. All the members treat me very respectfully, as if I was the chief of the department, uniform, everything like that.
Wow.
So it was really great. And, I'm not the only one in Farmingville. There's a bunch of us from other departments.
Moved out there.
that moved out east.
I love that though, because then you still get to keep that, because that's one thing. If anyone is, I have a, ton of people been listening to the show, so they know that the Firehouse and, it's a real bond, right? And it's something when you start in any fire department, it becomes a part of your life. So it's great to be able to move out there and then still be accepted and it still be a part of your life. Still get to go down to the Firehouse. Still get to help out with trainings. I love stuff like that.
Yeah, and listen, I could have not joined. I could have just stayed as done my life membership in a fire department that's 20 miles away from where I lived.
Mm-hmm.
But now I can go right down the block. When there's an alarm, I could be the guy that can help out. Maybe I'm the fifth guy on the rig to go. Maybe I'm the chauffeur. When I joined, I told them I had two rules. I said, I don't want to be a chauffeur and I don't want to be an officer. Well, I caved on the chauffeur one already. And it wasn't because...
So you got to explain that. Why did you want to be a chauffeur?
Because I was new to the neighborhood. And I was new to the area.
Okay.
And, we have a lot of technology now, like GPS and stuff like that. And I just punch it right in my phone. And, we have the computers in the fire truck too. But I didn't really, in my head, know which section of town this was, what I can expect with hydrants on this side of the town. So I didn't want to put myself behind the 8 ball, so to speak,
Yeah.
But I caved on that one already because there were a couple of runs.
And they were like,
we need a driver. And I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'm caving on that one. But, I haven't caved in the other one. I can guarantee you I'm not caving on the other one.
And just for our listeners to know, what he means of not knowing, it wasn't so much not knowing the town. It's knowing those back roads, those roads. I know Uniondale like the back of my hand. So I know that if it's on Front Street, I can come around this way. I'll be able to get out, go this way, go to the left. And I guess that's what you're talking about. You didn't kind of know that yet to get comfortable to say, you know what, but they pushed you into it.
Yep.
It was going to happen. It was going to happen. All right. So I got a question for you. I always, start any interview with saying, what makes you want to be a firefighter? Like, where did this come from? People don't just wake up and say, I want to run into a burning building. Or did you just wake up one day and say that?
No, and I feel like that this happened a lot more back in the day. My grandfather, he was a member. He was a member of Merrick Hook and Ladder Company. My father is an ex-captain of Freeport, Fort Apache Hose 5.
Look at that.
So,
shout out Freeport.
I always knew that was, it was just, I thought like that's what you do when you get older. I didn't know. I didn't have any male figures in my life that weren't involved in the fire department. So I just thought that just happened.
That is a different perspective, Dudley, that I've never even thought about. Like, when you're growing up in it, you don't even think like, I'm supposed to go to the firehouse. Like, that's what you're going to do.
I thought when I was young, I thought everybody's dad was in the fire. I thought everybody had that Plectron radio somewhere in the house, and it just,
will shake your entire home.
Yeah.
So you young guys don't know about that.
I could tell you my grandfather being over my house for my 5th birthday. We lived in Freeport still. And they used to do still alarms. I don't even know if still alarms is even like a thing anymore. That used to be like a still alarm used to be like the signal 8 call, like one like engine they needed or something, or two engines.
All right.
So when I was a kid, Freeport Police Department used to dispatch the fire department.
Oh wow.
And they used to, because they have so many engine companies, the police department would go on the air and like call and say any available company. And the first 2 companies in quarters that picked up the phone and had a crew, they went no matter where it was. It could be right behind somebody else's firehouse. If another company picked up, they were going. So my dad's in Hose 5, and on my 5th birthday, everybody's over for cake. Blah, blah. All of a sudden, one of my aunts screams, "There's a car on fire outside in front." I'm at the window thinking this was planned for my birthday. And the fact that the still alarm happened at Hose 5, which was all the way on the other side of town, was the engine that answered up. So my dad's company came, and Wide Awake Engine, those 2 engines pulled up.
Like, you guys did
and I'm like, this was the best birthday ever. It was just normal to me, man.
That is insane, because as a child, that's what you're going to think.
Yep.
Like, oh, look at this. And you'll never forget that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, y'all did this just for me.
5th birthday, car fire right in front of the house. Corner East and Ray for the listeners that know Freeport.
I love that. All right, so 32 years. 32 years. That's some time, man. That is some time, Dudley. So besides the story there, I know you got some stories for us. I need to hear a good story. I need a good story on any side, as chief, as, you know, whatever you got.
You know what? The stories that I could tell is like, you know, like what's memorable to me, like going through the ranks, going to the chief, is stuff that happens after the fact. Like when people come and say, I remember when you were chief and this happened and I learned this, or you taught me this by,
that's good.
You know, when people, you know, bring you that stuff, that's what makes it, you're like, wow, you know,
makes you feel
when
good.
you're doing it, when you're in the moment, Chris, you're not even thinking about it. You're like, all right, I want this training. I want the companies to do the training the same way. So they're all cross-chained. So they all know what each other's doing. They know each other's job. And, you know, I want to make things better for this group to move forward. And then I hear it years later, man, that's like, you have to sit back in perspective from that. But I mean, I've had stuff that happened, you know, after I was chief, we went to a fire in the middle of the night. It was actually a fire in North Lindenhurst, which borders North Lindenhurst. Okay. And I'm out as chief. It was before the captain thing. I'm at that in between time.
Okay.
And we're going to the run, and I'm in the back of the engine, and they're all like looking at me like, well, I guess you got the knob because you're the ex-chief that's in the back, right. And there ain't any other chiefs on the rig. So anyway, we get to this fire in North Lindenhurst as a mutual aid engine. We ended up being the first due engine.
Oh, okay.
Fire on the second floor. We get up there, and I have one of these kids that was with me. You know, like that was one of my probies that came through the department while I was in the chief's office. He's my backup man. Well, as we're in the fire, the stairs give way. I go from the top floor.
Now you guys are already upstairs.
Yeah.
When the stairs give way.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I go down to the first floor.
Oh wow! So you went through.
I went through the floor. His training knew to call the Mayday right away and say, we lost the nozzle man. You know, I went down, and this house had dog houses out on the front.
Wait. I want to start from the beginning here. I got, because this is a story here. So you make your push. You're going up the stairs. Once you get up the stairs, you get to the top landing. You're there. He's right behind you, or he's maybe a couple steps behind you.
He's right on me. He's being a good backup man. You know. He's right there.
Okay.
We make the push. We go to make the turn. It was a Cape style house.
Okay.
We make the turn, and man, this fire was burning for a while. You know, and I probably had the line open for, you know, minimal time. You know, I had the hose line open.
Yeah.
And next thing I know, I just felt myself, and I thought I had my back almost on the wall.
Okay.
That gave way because the fire had been burning and burnt all the way through. And I remember falling. I was like, oh, you know, like it happened so quick, but it happened so slow.
You're like, and feel it falling.
I was falling, like, and now I'm falling backwards, and I'm in my mind, I'm like, I don't want to land on my SCBA.
Yeah.
So I'm like, how do I turn myself? And again, happen fast, happen slow. Turn. I remember the doghouse from the Cape, like passed me on the way down, and I landed like almost on top of the doghouse.
Oh, wow.
And now it's totally black. And I'm like, all right, I know what just happened.
I feel my legs. I feel my arms.
I know I'm okay. And in my head, I'm like, I know the brothers are going to get me. I know that, you know, I didn't know he called the Mayday, but I found it after like that he had called the Mayday right away, that we lost somebody. And Chris, like that, the RIT team was on me.
They were there.
And they pulled me out. You know, I remember like them like walking me out, and, you know, weird little things that happen. I'm in the pitch black. I'm trying to keep my breathing good. Okay, they're going to find me. Somehow an ember went up my glove. And that's the thing I'm concerned. I'm shaking my hand as I'm in the pitch black. Like, what is in my glove? And it was an ember burning my hand. But anyway, listen, the brothers were on me. They got me out. You know, I looked like the Spirit of 76 coming out the door. Like I should have had like the band on that. It's like you've just been in 3 different parts of a house in like the 2 minutes.
Seconds.
Crazy.
But I know that must be rewarding to know that probie was the one to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, he literally probably trained under you, learned everything, and now this is the guy that calls the Mayday for you, and probably did it flawlessly.
Yeah,
flawlessly.
Hey, shout out to David Shook. He was my backup, and I call him Salty Shook all the time because he made a salty.
Shook, we need you on the show now.
He made a salty move right there, and fast forward when I go into that year of being captain. David Shook is my second lieutenant. So Proby comes through, backup man as a fireman. He's my second lieutenant, man.
That.
Full circle.
Now that's a memory
but
that we'll always hold on to.
But those are things that I think about years later. As you know, it's not like I think about one single thing. I think about this whole evolution of how this happened. You know?
Yeah, I love that. All right, so I want to move on to just technology, right? And because 32 years, that's a long time. You've seen it all. You've seen where the fire services went. So in a whole, like, you know, how has just firefighting technology, techniques, how has that evolved over your 32 years?
I mean, technology is, you know, it's always ever changing in the fire service. There's trade shows, there's different stuff coming down the line. If anybody ever deals with any vendors, they're always showing you like the newest thing and how we do things better. We're always looking to do things better.
Yep.
You know, safer. First thing is safer for us. You know, try to make the best for the people that we're trying to save. But most importantly, we want to keep things safe, and we want to be able to do the job as quickly as possible, and you know, put the fire out, so to speak. The technology I think that's changed is that years ago, to me, the technology was those guys that had 32 years in when I was the brand new guy.
Yeah.
Because I could sit and, you know, talk to them, and they would teach you stuff. But they would teach you stuff because those guys 32 years ago, man, they were all trades guys. We've lost that in the fire service now. You know, we always had carpenters, we always had plumbers, we always had electricians.
That's right.
And man, like those guys could, if a tool broke while you were, if something broke, a tool or anything, man, they could tell you how to square root it and rewire it and get it going. You know, we've lost that. Yeah. So now we don't have that technology anymore, so to speak. Our technology now is like this platform, anything like Instagram, social media articles and books and stuff like that. The problem is I'm not sitting across from that guy anymore. I don't know his reputation or what he's done. You know, now I'm being influenced, which is basically what it is. You being it, but you don't know all the time if they're giving you the best advice or something that they've experienced or just read about, or just, you know, they're trying to lead you. You know, they're trying to do the right thing, but you don't know how credible those people can be. So I think that's a huge way. As far as other stuff, we've gotten, like I said, a lot better with stuff. We've gotten better tools, but knowledge is the best thing, man. Everybody's got that Rolodex up in their head.
That's right.
You know, you can go to a house fire, boom, you like this. But then when you go to something that, you know, like, whoa, I got to back up here for a minute. You know,
take
like
a second and think. But those stories is what help you sitting at that bar, you know, with that old guy, and he was telling you, you remember those things. You were like, I remember this. Where do I remember this from? Oh, for me sitting at the bar with whoever it was, and they taught me this. So, yeah. I
mean, you when you were that young guy, like sometimes you like shied away from those guys. You know what I mean? Because they were like they were just wanted to do their thing, and you know, 3:30 came and 3:30 was their time. But you know, like once they got to know you, and saw that what you were about.
And so that you were serious.
And so that you were serious and you wanted to learn.
Once they do that, then they'll gravitate to you. Come here, let me show you this. Come here, let me show you this. Sit down, sit there and talk forever. Yeah. But you're learning, so it's wonderful.
I mean, and those guys also, you know, and bless them, bless the ones that are still here, and God bless those ones that haven't, you know, that aren't here anymore. Those guys looked out for you. You know, and looked out for you in your life, man. Like I can remember being sitting there 18 and like, yo, take civil service tests, take civil service tests, take civil, you know, and those guys were all civil service guys. Those guys were all
town workers, they were all county workers.
Yeah, they were Korean War veterans or Vietnam War veterans. They'd all, you know, seen stuff, and you know, they all, you know, knew how they went down that road, joined the volunteer firehouse, built their family, built their homes, you know. And they wanted the best for you, man. And once they would be like
did.
that, and they would put that, they would get those civil service exams when they came out and like leave them for you on the
right
thing.
there on the board. Yeah, take this one, take this one. Take
Pretty
this
much
one.
not even if you didn't fill it, you know, they did everything but fill it out for you, man. And
I love that. All right, so I got a question which I've asked everybody.
Yep.
What is one common myth that you want to debunk about firefighting right now, if you have any? So just to give you some examples, we've had people that say we don't get cats in trees, right? Then I had someone come on and say, I actually got a cat in a tree. So anything that you want to debunk right now for the
I will say,
listeners.
as somebody that is a 911 dispatcher,
Okay.
I have had people say, and I have said to people, you know, have you ever seen a cat skeleton in a tree? And they're like, no. I'm like, trust me, the cat will come down when the cat is hungry. You've never seen that before.
You don't need to call us for that.
You don't need to call for that. Listen, I think everybody thinks, one, that we're paid.
There you go.
Number
Okay.
two, that we're always in the firehouse.
Yep.
Three, when they call 911, that they're calling the firehouse on the corner of their block. So those type of things, like, you know, I understand when people have an emergency. Like I've been a 911 operator. August this year will be 30 years. I have been on the phone with people, so I know how long it feels when you call 911 and you're like, where are they? There's a firehouse right. I'm like, well, listen, ma'am, they're at their house. They have to get, you know,
it's different.
they have to get there. They got to
don't
put their gear
understand
on. They got to go, you know, are they waiting for that one more guy to be there?
It's right here. What do you mean?
Yeah. So, I mean, we are doing to me, I think we're doing an amazing job on the island that, you know, we've adapted as time is going on. We've saying, hey man, maybe this far we can't handle everything all the time on our, you know, we need to bring in our neighbors, you know. There aren't those imaginary red lines in streets that says this is Hempstead, this is Uniondale, this is East Meadow. You know, when there's an emergency and something's going on at someone's house, I can guarantee you they don't care what color the rig is that's there or what name is there. They want help and they want it to be there right now.
That is the truth. So just to talk about that, being a dispatcher. So if you can kind of tell the listeners what you do actually for a living, and of course I assume, and I'm pretty sure, is that the volunteer service is what kind of pushed you to do what you do now.
Sure. Again, go back to those old timers. You know, get a civil service job. Civil service was always in the back of my mind, whether I was going to be a police officer, or I was going to be a firefighter, or I was going to be this, or that, and whatever. So, worked out that you know, I again, growing up, my father always radios on in the house, scanners going on, like, you know, like I was always listening. Yep. You know, I was probably like I was probably the kid on like the playground in the morning, and like the other kids are like talking about going. I'm like, yo, did you hear who had a 10 last night?
And they're like,
what? And I'm like, yeah, I had the scanner going, the antenna was going, you know, I was listening, you know, my mother's yelling to go to bed, and I'm like, wait, I just got to find out if there's water on the fire.
I love that. With the passion there, right?
So,
as a kid,
oh man,
I just gotta hear his mom.
Trust me.
I don't need to hear the cartoons. I don't need to hear this. I need to know if they got water on the fire yet.
So I guess I always had, like, you know, in the world they talk about like having dispatcher ear, like you always like you know, I could, you know, I had kids in the firehouse, like when I was chief, and like I got like the radio on in my chief's car. I got the police radios going, scan it like and I can remember one of the guys being like, how do you listen to everything? I'm like, this car's going over here for this, and I'm like I told him everything that was going on. And he's like, how do you do that? I'm like, I'm just listening to it. He's like, but you're not sitting.
Years of doing it.
Yeah. So, like I said, I always thought I could make a career out of that, and so in 1994 I started. In the town of Babylon, there is a 911 center, Babylon Central Fire Alarm. Started working there. They do the 10 departments in the town of Babylon for fire and rescue. Took the civil service exam for county, which is Suffolk Firecom, Nassau Firecom, Suffolk Firecom as the counterpart. And I started working there in December of 2007. So 30 years, man. That's, you know, I've probably taken thousands of calls, and I love it, man. Every day is a different day that I've gone to work.
Learning something now let me ask you a quick question, which I've asked dispatchers before. When you're listening to that radio, let's say you're not there, you're in Farmingville, and you hear them on the radio. Does it make you cringe if they're not saying the right things? Like you're like, come on, guy.
I mean, it trains you. It trained me how I know. We have to edit that part, but anyway.
Don't worry about it.
Being a dispatcher, you're always trying to get the picture painted for you.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't have the best painter out there, let's just say.
Yeah.
So,
I like the way you put that.
And so you're trying to help them do their job by getting them what they need and doing, taking things off their plate for them, so to speak, and just be like, all right, we handled the fire marshal for you, we handled your mutual aids. And that's the best way. That is the best way. The chief that lets you let that happen and just get them what they need. That's
and not
best.
asking like, let me do what I do.
Yeah. Let me help you. Let me help you and do what I get paid to do.
There you go.
And that's what's going on. When you're the chief, you're trying to have the guys inside paint the picture for you, but you already got the picture painted on the outside. What you think, you know what's going on. And hey man, it's getting bad and I got to get these guys out.
Yeah.
So that's the same thing that you're doing in your job here. You can hear the chief, he's getting excited and you're like, all right, I know he's got something, So you just try to be that calm voice, man.
Calm voice to kind of relax. I always was told Firecom is the candy store. Whatever you need, they got it. They will walk you through the whole thing. Just trust them. Just trust them.
We're doing it every day. We're sending people places every day. We're telling them where to go. As I always say, we're telling them where to go. I mean, I tell young kids all the time, and I'm like, listen, man, when you're talking on that radio, you just have to take a breath. You can't. If you're the excited guy on the radio, you're gonna make everybody excited.
That's right.
Otto the garbage man goes and pick up garbage. When he turns on that block and sees garbage cans, he doesn't scream. Yeah. He expects the garbage to be there. If you're in the fire truck or you're in a chief's car or you're anywhere and you pull up and there's fire, you should expect there to be fire every single time you turn out the door.
That is the truth. That's going to be a clip right there. I'm just letting you know that's going to go by. I love that because it's true. Like, listen, the garbage man knows his garbage. You're fine. You know that's going to be there. Why are you going all crazy? All right. So really quick, I just wanted you to go into you being, I think you said vice president or president of the union, right?
Yeah. So I'm the executive vice president of Suffolk County AME, which is the union that represents all the municipal workers in Suffolk County. Okay. Basically anybody that's not law enforcement in Suffolk County. Okay. 10,000 members, 6,000 active, 924 different job titles. So the dispatchers, all the 911 operators and all the call centers in the county, they're with us. Nurses, DSS, Child Protective Services, DPW workers, the clerical for all over, everybody that does civilian titles in the police agency, sheriff's office, large band of people out there doing stuff. Wow. And I'm the executive vice president and, right underneath the president there. Doing union stuff, it's a lot like the fire service because you have a lot of people and you can get a lot of stuff done. You just have to harness their potential, bring them all in to help the common goal. And that's just to make things better for the workforce as they go to work every day and make things that makes things better for their families. Mm-hmm. And that makes things better for the county because we're not only the county workers, we're also the county taxpayers too.
That's right.
So we're invested in the county. So we're fighting them better wages. That they're able to do stuff that they want to do with their houses and their homes and in their community. And a happy workforce, man, makes a happy county.
I love that. Now, let me ask you a question though. Like, how did you get into that? Like, how did you end up getting into being that executive vice president?
Dan Lebler, who's the president, he had, they had an opening and, everybody on the board is from different facets of the county. And they didn't have somebody that was from a 24-hour unit. So you come from a 24-hour unit, I know, and a rotating tour. So sometimes my Saturday is a Tuesday in the week. So I've had to train friends and family for years. They're like, yo, we're having a barbecue on Saturday. I'm like, yeah, it's great. It's my Wednesday. And I got to work. They're like, what do you mean you got to work on Saturday? And like, that's like being in the fire service too. They're like, what do you mean you got to go do something? I'm like, I got to go do something. I got a work call. So the both parts of my life, man, they've all intertwined.
They always pulled.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So I got a question about just volunteerism, right?
Mhm.
Like, for you, how has it changed your life in a whole? Like, how has that changed your life?
I have so many things that I'm thankful for. Besides, family and my job and stuff, but every single thing I can point back to the volunteer fire service.
Look at that.
I would have never been a 911 operator. I would have never got involved in the union because I had the job of a 911 operator. That I joined the volunteer fire service because I joined that because my dad was in, my grandfather was in. I just thought, you get your key at 18. Everything.
I just love that perspective, but go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I have friends, in the Hempstead Fire Department. I have friends in Germany that I met.
I got friends in Uniondale.
I got friends in Uniondale. I got friends in low places. I got friends in high places. I mean, all my friends, even the nickname Dudley that people in the fire service know me as, a name that I've had since as a little kid. I can remember probably about 15, 20 years ago, I was Christmas shopping and I had like a fire department jacket on. It said like Dudley. And I was like sitting at a traffic light and I'm like, people think this is my name. I'm like, and people say to me all the time, like, people are going to see this interview and be like, I didn't know your name wasn't Dudley. I thought it was Tom. But I've known people, through different circles, and it's just great. Like, you're going to get out of something whatever you can get.
That's right.
You're going to get what you put into it, or, I always told people,
just not to cut you off, but that leads me into my next question, which it sounds like you're answering is, if there was a piece of advice you can give a new member that's there or wanting to join, what would you tell them?
I would tell them, give it a try. It's like when you're a kid and, mom makes something for dinner and you're like, I don't like that. And they're like, just try it. And, and you try it and you either like it or you don't like it. That's the volunteer fire service. And you go and maybe you like it, maybe you don't. But I tell people, my experience has always been, and all the leaders, anybody who wants to be a leader, we want to be a chief, a lieutenant, every single person that's in that fire service, you can find a job for.
That's right.
You can empower them. Right. I mean, maybe, the older guys sometimes, like if you go to that older guy and like, hey man, I need you to sit on this committee, they go and do it. And then they're like, man, nobody's asked me to do that in a long time. Or, hey man, could you sweep the bay out while the rig's out because you missed the rig again, but you're here for the finger reader. So listen, just take care of that for me. And they do it. Listen, mate, you make people, you give somebody a job, they're all going to do it, man. And when you need a really big job done, you bring the whole department together and you see something get accomplished. There's no better feeling, man. I
know. I can imagine, especially looking at that from the chief lens as well. I know that must be amazing. All right, so I got a game that we play. I don't know if you've seen it, but we play a game called the Flashover.
Okay.
All right. So, Chief, really quick, tell everybody what a flashover is.
A flashover is when more oxygen gets in the room than was in there previously, feeds the fire, rolls over your head, and
boom. Everything lights up just like that in 2 seconds, right? So that's the premise of this game. It's really quick. So I'll give you something like Android and Apple, and you got to tell me which one you like, all right? But we're going to do TV
Apple,
shows.
Definitely.
He's an Apple guy. I'm an Android guy, but that's okay. All right, so it'll be, something really quick, and it'll be TV shows. So I'll give you the 2 TV shows or a movie, and you got to tell me which one you like. If you've never seen it, say I've never seen it.
All right, cool.
All right?
Yeah.
All right, are you ready, Dudley? Chief Dudley. Did they say Chief Dudley, or did they say Chief? Like that's why they said it. And we'll throw a little Freeport in here right now. Okay, do it.
So there's an ex-chief. They call him Greasy Joe. That's his nickname. And he probably for you every time he says Chief Dudley. And now Jerry Cardoza, who's an ex-chief, every time he says Chief Dudley. There are people that don't even know either of those two people that see me nowadays.
And they say
in Patchogue Fire on this phone, they're like Chief Dudley. And I'm like, they don't even know who gave that name, but they heard the stories and they moved along the road.
All right, so let's get this flashover going. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Chief Dudley. All right, here we go. Chicago Fire, rescue me.
Rescue me.
Rescue me, third watch.
Rescue me.
Backdraft, ladder 49.
Backdraft.
We're going to ask about that in a little bit. And the most important question, engine or truck? Which one we going with, Chief? Engine or truck.
There's no better job than putting out the fire and having an op.
There we go.
But I will say this, from years of experience, you don't get medals unless you're in the truck.
There you go.
But engine versus truck, firefighter, not a firefinder.
Yeah, I like that. That is another clip. Listen, Chief has all the clips that we're going to use today. I love that. Firefighter, not firefinder. Some truck guys are going to be pissed off about that, but they'll be all right.
That's right. They'll be at medal day getting medals.
There you go. All right, so backdraft versus ladder 49. Why backdraft?
Because as soon as you said backdraft, I thought of me being in 11th grade in high school, and goes back to people thinking that we're paid or always at the firehouse, whatever. And I went to school with a kid, and he used to be like, "Hey, man, you're in a volunteer fire. Do you guys just sit around and watch backdraft all day?" So that was the memory that clicked in my head, in that index file in my head, and I said backdraft.
Backdraft, that's what it is. It's funny because we also talk about how a lot of these things were exaggerated, right? Like, you know, in backdraft, they're walking around, standing up, doing anything like that. Is there any shows that you've watched that you were like, you know what? I want to ask you from a dispatcher perspective. Any of the shows you watch that you're like, you know what? That's what I do. Watching these dispatcher shows and listening to them. Are they saying it right? Do they have people like you in the back helping them? Or you're like,
what's the show? And it's on, I think it's on Fox now that Rob Lowe is a captain in.
I'm not sure.
It's like a 911 show. It's like
is it 911?
911 Dallas or something like that.
Yep, there you go.
So that show goes into like what goes on in the dispatch world. I mean, you have a group of 15 people working together doing, taking 911 calls and stuff. And it's always funny because, you'll be working a tour and they're like, "Hey, the Boy Scout troop is coming through for a tour, or this civic group's coming through." Those people come through, man, the phone don't ring. It's like, I'm like, these people must be like, wow, they're just sitting here and they've got a TV on and they're talking to each other. And I used to say, if there's a tour group coming in, I'm like, give me a whole bunch of papers. I need to like throw them up in the air and just be like, hey, because that never happens. And you know what? That's sometimes where we get in the fire service, where people are like, oh, they're just dispatchers, because they have a friend and maybe they go sit down and hang out at the dispatch center with them for a little while, or maybe they have, maybe they have like a booth in the firehouse where they just locally dispatch one department. And they're like, oh, those guys just whatever. Because when you're out being busy, when we're busy, you're not seeing us because you're out in the street doing it.
That's right. That's right. So true. So true. All right. Listen, is there anything that I'm forgetting? Anything that you want to mention? Some last words for our listeners?
Listen, it's been fun. This was a good time.
I'm glad. You gotta come back. You gotta come back.
Yeah.
So wait, I got a question. And this is for pretty much everyone, but also for the artwork for this show. Is it Farmingville, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's East Farmingville or just Farmingville?
No, you're thinking of East Farmingdale.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Which it borders on Nassau-Suffolk border with Farmingdale.
It's Farmingville.
Yep, Farmingville.
And it's North Lindenhurst.
North Lindenhurst.
All right, so that's where you're a life member, and then you're actively in there.
I'm actively in Farmingville.
In Farmingville. Okay.
Hopefully nobody disputes that I'm actively in there. Yeah. I want to just say that.
Who we have to get? We had to get some guys on this show that you were talking about. We need to get the guy that you were talking about. That was the probie, and then was your lieutenant from what was his name?
Dave Shook.
Dave Shook.
Salty Shook.
Salty Shook. We're gonna need you on the show, Salty Shook. So we're gonna be reaching.
And
out.
you being a volunteer, and if you are somebody like myself that wants to talk and wants to learn stuff, man.
Yeah.
You can really, that would be my advice, that if you want to end the sign off of, was meet people in other departments. The worst thing that we have in the fire service nowadays is some of the people that have been there a long time said, we never did something like that way. We never did, you know what? But you'd be like, well, they do it in this department. Listen, you got to do what's right for your department and for the emergencies that you handle.
It's true.
But if you have the ability to say to somebody, I'm going to throw another Freeport one out there. Paul Hashagen, ex-chief from Freeport, Rescue 1. I tell this guy all the time, I'm like, every time I talk to you, it's like talking to Mickey Mantle, and every time he responds back with, something, that I'm a hole with an A. Let's just say. But every time I see that guy, because of his knowledge, man, you know, he's one of those guys that I just want to like push in a corner and talk to and just pick his brain. But if you had that ability to do that with anybody, you know, and maybe you don't get a lot out of something, but you're always going to get something if you talk to people and don't follow those imaginary lines in the street that, you know, says this side of the street is East Meadow, but that side Unionville, you know, because a fire is going to burn different in either one of these places.
That's right.
But that's the great thing, man. If you know people, you want to talk to people, or you seek things out, man, you can have a lot of fun in this job. You can do a lot of good things, have a lot of good times, but you can also help a lot of people.
I love that. Chief, thank you so much. Thank you
My pleasure. Thank you
for coming. So I know you guys enjoyed that. We just heard from Thomas Chief Dudley Moran from the Farmingville Fire Department and a life member of North Lindenhurst about his life as a firefighter. I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. Please like, share, subscribe, do all of those things. I am your host, Chris Moses, and tune in next week for another great conversation in the Firehouse.